excited to introduce you all to Trey Goff and to Learn Arena. Traditional educational models are fundamentally broken, and the e-learning industry is still nascent. While cheaper than traditional education, e-learning can still be prohibitively expensive and unengaging. And that's where Trey comes in and his company, Learn Arena. Learn Arena is pioneering a new model for online education, which allows students to get paid to learn marketable skills in a competitive environment. And I'll bring Trey's bio here in a second. Most importantly about Trey is that Trey is one of those people who I personally admire. Trey, I consider you a brother from another mother. We have both the same mission to leave this world a lot better off than when we arrived, and to reduce the suffering we might see around us in a way that is effectively a win-win for everyone involved. It's just that you're a heck of a lot smarter than I am. So I am very excited that you're here to share Learn Arena with us this evening. Trey is the co-founder and president of this company, Learn Arena, a new e-learning platform which enables students to get paid to learn. Trey's also chief of staff and chief marketing officer at Honduras Prospera Inc., an economic development platform and charter city developer, which is another company that is near and dear to my heart as I have invested into that company. I think it's a phenomenal, probably one of the greatest prosperity-inducing entities in the entire world. Previously, Trey led the Out of Last Place Institute, a nonprofit focused on catalyzing economic prosperity in the state of Mississippi. Trey, take it away.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate it. I sincerely and deeply hope I can live up to those kind words. You set the bar high for me, so I appreciate it. All right, give me just a moment to share my screen, and then we will get started. There we go. All right, as Chris mentioned, my name is Trey Goff, and I am co-founder and president of Learn Arena. And today, briefly, what I want to share with you all are observations about how existing options for education are broken and how we are at least attempting to fix those and to provide an alternative solution, another tool in the tool belt for parents to be able to unleash the untapped potential of their children. To put it succinctly, we are building the e-learning platform that I wish I would have had access to when I was in high school and in college. So first, let me start with describing what's wrong with existing options for advanced education. First, and I'm sure many of you who are attending this conference are intensely aware of the myriad issues that our existing universities face, especially in the United States. They're expensive. There's over $1.6 trillion of student debt currently outstanding in the United States, which is a mind-bogglingly large number. They are inefficient. The vast majority of those dollars going to American universities are increasingly going toward bloated bureaucracies, administrators, and facilities and things like that aren't actually effectively helping students learn marketable skills and life skills that will actually help them make a positive impact on the world. And universities are largely just a signaling mechanism. What universities and what a university degree effectively does, and I'm borrowing this from an inspiration of mine who is one of the co-founders of Praxis, Isaac Morehouse, who says a college degree is effectively just a signal that you are no worse off than anyone else that has that degree, that you're effectively generally competent, that maybe you have a little subject knowledge expertise in the particular field of study that you majored in school. But what it doesn't tell you, for example, if you have a degree in computer science from a leading university, what that doesn't tell an employer is whether or not you can build a front-end web application using the JavaScript programming language, for example. So they're largely just a signal, and they're not actually efficacious at the one thing they're supposed to do, which is educating students. Now, e-learning platforms as a whole are cheaper. They're more efficient because you can just select the courses that you want to take instead of being forced to take courses you may or may not be interested in. And therefore, as a result of that, you can focus on marketable skills. However, even e-learning platforms have an Achilles heel, as this illustration shows very directly. First, they are unengaging. E-learning platforms of all stripes, some studies show, have a class completion rate of less than 20%, which is mind-bogglingly low because these students are paying for these courses, and they're not getting much out of them if they're not completing them, of course. And then two, they're poor signaling mechanisms. If you go to an employer with proof that you completed a course in JavaScript from Coursera, let's say, That is not going to tell the employer hardly anything about whether or not you know anything about JavaScript, because these courses effectively baby the students through these platforms, and they don't actually help you truly learn the skills because their pedagogical methodology is poor. So what we have attempted to do is introduce a fundamentally new paradigm into the e-learning space that will massively increase the incentive for students to learn, to complete courses, to learn marketable skills, and allow them to get paid while they're doing it. So we create a financial incentive to learn. The way it works is students invest a modest fee to enter a course. They compete with other students in the class. These courses are about 2 weeks long. And at the end of the course, there is something called a skill challenge where all students effectively take a actual exam, which will be based upon real world problems that they might be expected to solve using the skills they just learned in this 2-week course, which lasts about 10 hours or less. And they can earn back anywhere from 10% to 6x their initial investment in the course, depending on which course they take. So they can literally make a profit while learning marketable skills. Now, we haven't just focused on a financial incentive to learn, but we've also focused on taking all of the things that make video games addictive and turn them towards something that is pro-social, like learning, rather than anti-social, like video games. And let me tell you, I personally can attest to this. I actually was top 1% in the world in Call of Duty for a while, which has over 100 million active users. And it sucked a massive amount of my productive time into Call of Duty. And there was no financial reward like Learn Arena. It was purely the fact that I was socially doing something together with my friends that was enjoyable. And it was also the fact that I was able to compete against others from around the world. There's this innate competitive drive in all of us that video games really just nail. And video game designers have spent a couple decades now refining the way video games work to just maximize the dopamine hit, the dopamine reward from gaming effectively. So what we've done is taken as many of those lessons as possible from other traditional video games and ported them into our platform so that all the same buttons and triggers and things that make video games such a dopamine hit is instead turned toward learning marketable skills to unleash the potential of the students. So we have a leaderboard and ranking system that creates a social incentive to learn. And we measure progress like a video game, not like a report card. We allow students to level up to gain access to advanced courses in much the same way they might level up in a video game to obtain access to higher levels in the video game. Another thing that we have done is really focused on making the distinctions between the rankings that they might earn meaningful. So you can see here our rankings are inspired not by video games, but by kind of classical thinkers. Because what we are effectively training students to do is we want students to become a polymath, which, as you probably know, a polymath is someone who has a high degree of expertise in a number of seemingly unrelated fields. It's someone who is kind of adroit at many, many things. What we want to enable students to do is to learn about a variety of things and become experts in a variety of things. Because if you look at the long arc of human progress and the people who have substantially pushed human progress forward, they are polymaths. If you look back at ancient thinkers that we still read today, like Aristotle, Aristotle wrote about mathematics, physics, biology, zoology, theology, metaphysics, a wide variety of fields, and his contributions to those fields are still studied today. So our ranking system is directly designed to kind of incentivize students to become a true Renaissance man, if you will, or a Renaissance woman, depending on the case, to become the next Aristotle so that they can leave a lasting positive impact on the arc of human progress as well. The way that our course structure works is we have created multiple tiers that students can gain access to as they advance further and further in the platform. So at tier 1, if a student finishes in the top 15%, they both unlock access to the higher tiers, and the rewards for doing well in the skill competition are much less concentrated and more distributed. What I mean by that is every student in a tier 1 course will get at least 20% of their investment back. And the top performing students can make up to 2x of their class investment. So they can make up to a 100% profit on their initial class investment. Tier 2, the rewards are more concentrated. So students can earn up to 3x on their investment. But as a result of that, the worst performing students may not get as much back. So therefore, the level of competition is increased, and it's also higher difficulty subject matter. So you can imagine this, for instance, tier 1 being like a introduction to calculus, for example. Tier 2 might be intermediate calculus, to make an analogy to collegiate courses. And tier 3 might be differential equations, right? So applying these skills to something even higher and more difficult. And in tier 3, the rewards are very concentrated. Students can earn up to 6x their investment with a top 5% finish. But if they finish below that, they might not get anything back at all. So it's the highest level of competition. Now, importantly, these courses only last, as I mentioned earlier, about 2 weeks, about 10 hours of total course time, if you will. So we made this to be another tool in the tool belt of students who want to learn more and pursue their curiosities and their passions, as an addition to college or as an addition to high school, as well as eventually, hopefully, our long-term goal is to be a supplement to those things. Now, there are a number of ways that students can obtain funding for their participation on the platform. They can, of course, purchase it directly via card or PayPal. They can share their sign-up link with other students and friends to get $5 of credit for each student that actually signs up and takes a course. But importantly, parents can also set up a learn allowance for their students. What that means is it acts effectively like a gift card. So what that means is you can put, say, $100 into your student's or your child's account if you have a child who might be interested in this. And that $100 has to be spent on courses. Only the winnings from the courses can actually be pulled off the platform, which prevents them from, say, taking their learn allowance and spending it on something else. They have to spend it on actually learning. And importantly, from a parent perspective, unlike traditional universities, for example, you can see exactly where that money is going. So we provide parents with a transparency portal where you can go check on your students' class progress. You can see what courses they're purchasing and participating in, what courses they've already completed, how they did in those courses, what their current balance is. And you can even get customizable notifications to your phone or email that will notify you when they move into a new course or finish a course. So unlike college, where you're just kind of relying on their word to track how they're doing, you can directly access yourself how they are progressing through their learning journey. Now, we have initially focused the platform on highly valuable kind of business applicable skills, things like computer programming, data science, quantitative business skills, and applied mathematics and engineering. Our initial course catalog will be things focused in these areas so that students who want to learn more and use that to actually increase their career potential to directly translate into marketable skills is why we're focusing on these initially. So you can imagine, for example, if you have a child who is currently studying computer science and they just started as a freshman in school, but maybe they're ahead of the learning curve, or maybe they just want to get ahead because they just are passionate about the subject area. Well, they can come to Learn Arena and take these courses as a supplement to what they're doing in the traditional university and make money while they're doing it. Now, a key difference we're doing with our course catalog that many other e-learning platforms are not doing is focusing heavily on what has been empirically proven to be the most effective pedagogical methodology for helping students actually learn and retain the things that they are learning. And this is called the zone of proximal development. What many other e-learning platforms do is effectively baby students through the courses. You can take a coding course on Code Academy, for example, which I have done. And if you click the hint button enough, it will effectively fill out the problems for you. So you're not actually learning anything because it's too easy. On the other hand, some courses, say in universities, for example, for a professor who already has tenure and just doesn't really care, might be too hard. They don't provide enough support. They don't give you enough information, and the tests are just impossible. It's far beyond your capabilities. What the empirical research shows is that the zone of proximal development is where you want to be. It is where the coursework is challenging and therefore is rewarding to master, but is not so hard as to be impossible. So we're not, importantly, and this is crucial, we are not going to baby students. This is going to be challenging, but because it's challenging, it will be more rewarding, and they will actually learn things that they retain and they can deploy later on in life to their advantage. Now, as phase 2 of our project, beyond just the e-learning platform, we want to use the learning that these students are doing to directly help them get a leg up in life. So for students that opt into the career placement program, which is completely voluntary and they have to click a toggle switch effectively to opt into it, for these students, we will track their performance along a number of analytic metrics from the time it takes to complete a course, their average course completion, skill challenge percentage rank, how they do in the course quite literally, how many courses they take simultaneously, a number of things to help them then get placed with partner companies in internships, co-ops, entry-level jobs, or even mid-level jobs. And that in turn, those companies will give us feedback on the performance of the students that we place in their firms, which will only help further refine our development algorithms, which will help identify earlier on and more accurately the areas where students seem to excel and the areas and the career paths that might be available to them, because this is something that universities in particular really don't do very well. A lot of students will just major in something because it's what they've heard their friends are majoring in, and they don't actually know what the career opportunities might be from that. Well, we effectively will help solve that for them by algorithmically identifying the things that they would most be attracted to and be good at, and help place them in companies to pursue their dream career and their ideal career path as a result. Again, the way we do this is through talent quantification. So our eventual goal is to literally quantify human capital in as much as possible. Everything from the direct skills they're acquiring as a result of the courses they're taking, to critical thinking, to creativity, ambition, commitment, conscientiousness, work ethic. We eventually want to develop metrics that will be able to, perhaps coarsely, but at least somewhat track these character traits and these abilities for the students, so that over time we get better and better at identifying those truly talented, gifted students and bringing opportunities to them that they might have never otherwise had as a result of that talent quantification when they opt into the career placement program. Now, you may be wondering at this point, this sounds cool and all if you're paying students back, but how in the world do you guys make money? Well, this is what the financial model for any given course looks like. 45% of the money students spend on a course for that particular course cohort will be paid back to the students in the form of those payouts, depending on the tier they're in, as I mentioned earlier, how much those payouts will be and what they look like. And then 55% goes to the platform. And we then reinvest that money into the development of the platform, the development of more courses, improve the software behind it all. So in a way, we are, unlike most other e-learning platforms, which effectively just take 100% of the students' money. There's never a chance for them to make money back directly from the course. We enable them to profit from learning, quite literally, which is the fundamental paradigm shift behind Learn Arena. So now I'd like to show you a few kind of screen grabs of the actual platform as we're building it right now. This is the course exploration page. You can see they will be able to, at a glance on the course cards, see the price of a course, how long the course takes roughly, what tier the course is in, and the possible maximum earnings they could get from the course. So they can select both based on what they're most interested in, as well as the remuneration level that they desire. This is what it looks like once they click on a course. It'll give them a brief summary of what the course covers, as well as the entire payout structure for the course. So again, students can pick courses not just based on what they're most curious about, but perhaps what they might be most likely to make a profit on. And this is what it actually looks like within the course module itself. For many of the courses, the students will be able to actually run the code that they are learning directly in the platform itself, which gives them a direct kind of feedback mechanism, and they get to experience what it's like to do these things in real time. Once they complete a course, this is what the screen they will see. If any of you have played video games before, I quite literally tried to model this as closely as possible. After the screen you see when you finish a Call of Duty match or an Apex Legends match, some of the most popular video games, there's a huge dopamine hit at the end of those matches because you get to see directly how you're progressing, both compared to your peers and compared to your prior performance. So it shows how many aptitude points they might gain in a particular field, their overall score, how that score translates to their placement percentage in the course, and therefore how much money they earned back from participating in the course, as well as their total skill mastery gained from the course. And this will be quite dynamic and visual to really help the students get that dopamine hit that they might get from a video game that they can instead get from doing something pro-social that's going to help them in life, like learning. This is an example of the stats page for any given student. So they'll be able to see how much they have earned over time, what their global rank is overall on the total skill mastery dimension, what their top skill areas are, and what their range score is. The range score we're developing an algorithm for now, which is kind of a metric of how broad the intellectual range of the student is. And that's the score they're really going to want to get up as high as possible to eventually attain that polymath rank, which will be incredibly hard to attain on purpose, because it creates a much stronger incentive to try to get there if it is truly exclusive. And to truly be a polymath without just faking it, it is hard. You have to learn a lot of things about a lot of different subject matters. So that is kind of one of the impetuses behind the way that we are structuring the ranking system, right? To make it very difficult and exclusive, and therefore rewarding to move up the rankings in Learn Arena. And finally, this is what the profile page looks like. So they'll be able to see what their overall skill mastery score is, as well as their total skill mastery points earned in specific courses. You can think of this as kind of like a video game that has, experience rankings for, say, specific guns or specific characters, as well as your overall experience growth and your overall ranking and level growth. Again, we modeled this directly after that to take all of the aspects of video games that make them so entertaining and so fun, and bring that to learning. So that is a brief overview of Learn Arena, of exactly what we're building, the problem that we are trying to solve, and how we're going about solving it. Listen, we are not in the business of giving your kids a piece of paper that is a permission slip for them to enter the workforce. We want to enable them to indulge their curiosities, connect with like minds, and eventually change the world for the better. So I invite you all to scan the QR code here and sign up today to both join the wait list and step into the arena. And with that, I will open it up for questions.
That is fantastic, Trey. I might steal the room, actually. So, but if you've got questions, please pop them into the chat. And I see one already. So Lacey's asked, "How do I sign my kids up?" You just answered that.
Yep. You just go to learnarena.com and go ahead and sign them up. And to answer your other question about what ages can participate, the platform is not age exclusive. They can start as early as they want or as late as they want. We intend this initially. We think our target market is going to be those young, very driven, kind of personal development driven men and women, most likely ages of like 16 to 20, 21, late high school, early college age is where we're targeting the initial content for. But if you have a 13-year-old, let's say, who wants to get ahead as much as they can and start learning programming now, they're more than welcome to join the platform as well.
Fantastic. And Lacey also asks, when does it go live?
Excellent. So we are building the alpha version of the platform right now. What you're signing up for when you sign up right now is access to the beta. That will be probably toward the middle to the end of June, if we stay on track with our current development goals, when we will initially be done with the alpha version of the platform and then start letting students in batches into the beta around July. And I want to mention something really quickly, Chris, that I didn't cover in the presentation, but we really wanted to make it rewarding and to reward students, as you mentioned earlier, kind of my life philosophy in a win-win way, for joining the beta, which if anyone who works in software knows, the beta can be buggy sometimes, right? So we are also helping these students, or helping us improve the platform. So in return for them doing that, what we have done is make it such that the first 100 students to achieve that polymath rank will not only receive a physical trophy as well as an NFT of the physical trophy, but they will also receive 100 shares in Learn Arena itself. So you will become a true stakeholder in the platform for being an early power user, for committing to progressing, and for helping us improve the platform. This is something I'm not aware of any other startup doing, but I was like, why would you not let your most prolific beta users share in the upside of what they're helping create?
It sort of reminds me a bit of how, like, sort of the people that created Bitcoin or like blockchain, they were working on this the whole time. They knew they were getting an incentive back. They didn't know what this is going to turn out to be. But for those that did it and hung on, phenomenal, right? Off the charts. Exactly. So I said it first. Bitcoin, Learn Arena.
I love it. I love it. What's funny is most of our executive team are like Bitcoin maxis as well, so they'll love that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Please add some more questions if you're thinking of it. I have a few, and so you can kind of take them in any way. I can say them all once, and then I can come back to them. But one is how the courses were developed. What other courses do you anticipate? You talked about how students in phase 2 can sort of signal, right? Truly signal and get part of internships. Couldn't you catch somebody midstream in terms of where they are and say, this guy's off the charts already. Let me expose that to people who would want to hire someone before someone else does. Like, I want to get this person early. More for the phase 2 than the phase 1, because $100, who cares, right? But how do you avoid sort of a fraud scenario? That's probably a harder question, and a development one where someone seems to indicate that they're really, really sharp, but someone else taking the test for them, right? Like the old SAT, someone in some country over here is actually taking it, and these kids have a perfect score all of a sudden. And then if someone is struggling, do you level up and down, or do you send them off to a remedial platform and say, hey, like, go do this and then come back here?
Sure.
So which one do you want me to repeat? Because
you're good. I'm going to take them in reverse order until I forget the question, and then you'll have to remind me.
That's great.
So I'll take that last question first, which is about the kind of remediation if they're not doing too well. What we do for students that might be consistently not placing very well in the skill challenges is they can retake the same courses. Okay. So for students that place below a certain level, and this will be dynamic depending on what tier it is, they will have the option when they finish the course to sign up to take that exact course again for the next 2-week time period, so that they already have a familiarity with the content, and they're like, man, I really could do better on this. I just didn't have enough time, or I was distracted, whatever. I'm going to really refocus on it, make sure I really get this content, and I'm going to crush the skill challenge next time, and the skill mastery for the next course. So we let those students retake courses, basically, and go back and take courses they've already taken to reinforce the things that they should be learning to then perform better on the next go-round. Under question about fraud, our plan right now is to fairly intensively KYC our users. So you'll have to not only prove that you're an individual, and we're still working on exactly how to do this, but for college students, for example, we would have them. We'll use a similar system, Chris, that actually we built for eProsper over on my other company, which has a financial grade KYC component, where I'm kind of mirroring a little bit of it from that, which is where you effectively as you sign up, the system will take a selfie of you and then match it to, say, a government issued ID for that platform. For us, will be a little more lax, right? If you have a student ID or whatever the case may be, you'll be able to use that to verify that you are in fact the person that you claim to be. And then we also have structured the platform in a way to also reduce the financial incentive to do so. So the courses will be hard enough that if you're a skilled programmer, let's imagine for a second that you would literally have a job at Facebook programming, doing JavaScript programming. Well, it's not going to be worth your time, literally, to come take Learn Arena courses and come in first place over and over and over again, because the payout's not high enough. Like, if you look at those guys' hourly wage, right, they make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. It's never going to be worth their time to try to do that. We'll also be implementing some anti-cheat software that there's a lot of this stuff, Chris, that got robustly developed over the last couple of years as COVID led a lot of students to go to remote learning. So we'll have fairly robust solutions for that are already on the market that will integrate that help prevent cheating as well. So we'll do everything we can to stop it. And then, of course, a few will get through, and we'll hopefully catch those kind of on a manual review. There will be some statistical anomalies, of course, that we'll be able to kind of pick those people out. Similar to how anti-cheat works in video games, right? The way that works is if there's a player that's getting 1,000 kills a game when the normal amount of kills a game is 100, they just kind of automatically get banned, because it's like you can't physically do that. Like, the pros don't do that. So it would be things like that. I have forgotten the earlier questions. I got as far as I could.
Yeah, no, that's actually pretty impressive. I usually can't make it past the first one. How do you catch somebody that's sort of midstream taking off, and you're like, this person already is signaling to the market that they should maybe begin to gain some internship or working with some company already that catch this guy, sort of like the Thiel Fellowship a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So V1 of the career placement program is effectively just selling access to a database to employers, where they will get access to a database that lets them see, for example, students that might be, say they're looking for a front-end developer, which is going to be a lot of JavaScript, HTML. Well, they'll be able to go see a database of all students, which will then let them see, like, all right, who's the top performing student in JavaScript on the platform? I'll go pick them out. Or what student is just really crushing it at HTML, for example. So we'll just give them access to the database and say, look, here's the top 5 people maybe, but you can go look for yourself. And the companies can then use that data to identify those kind of early performers. Over time, what we hope to do, Chris, is develop an internal team that will be tasked with identifying those people. In phase 3 of the company, which I didn't even talk about because it's a few years away, is effectively a Y Combinator for these students, right? So eventually, once we are big enough and have enough capital on our balance sheet to help them start companies, what we'll do is pick those students out midstream, pull them out into our Y Combinator-like program, and our founders will directly mentor them along with other relationships we're building to help them actually bring them together with another potential co-founder and help them start a company or pursue whatever the project might be that they're most passionate about. Because unlike any other venture capitalist in the world, right, we will have access to direct data of what this student has learned and a bunch of character traits and everything else. So over time, Chris, well, actually, once we do this enough over, say, 10, 15 years, and these companies get to grow and we see how they do, we'll even be able to identify students early on that exhibit characteristics that the algorithm previously showed was a successful founder. So we'll be able to pull them out very early.
Yeah, that's absolutely outstanding. I love to think about all the paradigms that are happening here, right? You've got the marriage of education, you got the natural incentive, which is the dopamine hits, the competition, the price-based kind of response, measurable performance, the affiliate programs, and then the way I like to kind of say fantasize about what a real free market would look like is everybody levels up because it's a much better scenario, right? The average is pulled way up,
Exactly.
and there's still always going to be someone, but they're not nearly as far down as everyone else. But you have this potential tremendous opportunity to go parabolic for some students who are off the charts.
Exactly.
And those people will come back and contribute back into all the solutions that develop. I think it's just a beautiful model.
Exactly. That is exactly the goal we want. We want to help even the moderate student obtain higher, say, career earnings. Maybe they get a better job or they get a promotion as a result of what they learned on Learn Arena. And then you have the outliers who we can help maybe create the next Facebook or the next Amazon or whatever the case may be.
I love that. And then, so the other question to have are, what other courses do you expect on the platform? These seem to me to be like the perfect ones that fit spot on with you. And then how are the existing courses developed? We have a lot of educational experts who tell you like, this is what a real course looks like. So those two questions.
Yeah. So I'll take that first question first. We have a Harvard math and physics grad who's our head of content, who is developing a lot of these courses for us. He is proficient in a number of programming languages, and importantly, has intensively studied while he was at Harvard, actually, like the empirical literature on what works best for pedagogy, like literally what is the best way to learn. Awesome. So he is not only creating a bunch of content right now, but he will also be curating content. So the way the model will work is we'll have third-party educators who may have a course on something. So, for example, we have someone developing a course right now who's a nuclear engineer. He's a working nuclear engineer at a nuclear company, developing some physics courses, right? Because he uses it day to day in his job. And then he'll submit those courses. Connor, who's the gentleman who does these things for us, will then take that course and make sure it fits our pedagogical model. It is up to standard. It fits that zone of proximal development. And then that is what the course will eventually turn into. So all of the content is highly curated and edited and improved to fit this pedagogical methodology. And for a preview of kind of coming attractions. So right now we have some C programming courses, R programming courses, some front-end development courses that are being developed right now. We also have, again, that nuclear engineer I mentioned, and a number of other subjects, kind of some basic to advanced math as well, and just straightforward statistical analysis courses. And then over time, we'll expand that offering to a wide variety of subject areas. We're just, again, focusing very narrowly early on the things that would provide the biggest bang for the buck for those first students.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. Spot on. Well, any other questions from the folks in the room?
The only other thing I wanted to add, Chris, also is if they have any other kind of questions or want to get more involved, my email address is tgoff@learnarena.com. So if any of you want to reach out to me, you're interested in participating or supporting the project in any number of ways, please reach out to me and I'll be happy to discuss how you might fit into the development of the project. I see one question in the Q&A as well. Someone said, I love the Western civilization imagery. Can you tell us about that? So as you might have noticed, we have a fairly unique aesthetic that was very intentional. What we are trying to do is take the aesthetic and the culture that developed through the pantheon of kind of classical Western civilization, that culture of intellectual rigor and curiosity, and combine it with a focus on developing the talent and the skills for the 21st century, which is very digital focused and technology focused, and combine those two things into an aesthetic that speaks to both the ideal of becoming a Renaissance man, of becoming perhaps the next Aristotle, with focusing on developing 21st century technologies that are maybe sci-fi now, but will be reality in the near future. So it's a combination of the classical and the ultra modern, kind of technologically advanced. And that's the inspiration behind the design aesthetic.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely brilliant. We actually had a speaker earlier this week who was the first virtual reality charter school, and it's actually a classical education with the addition of what is it like to be, virtually standing next to Elon Musk's rocket, for example.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, it's so cool. And then he places you on the moon and you're walking around the moon.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right? Just it's absolutely brilliant. I should connect you to, actually.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely.
And we're getting a couple of nice comments from a lady you might know, Miss Regina Pruitt.
Thanks, Mom.
He crushed it, Mrs. Pruitt. Absolutely crushed it. Well, unless there's any other questions here, we have absolutely gone over time. I think I have exhausted my list of questions. I'll always have a million more. I love the way this aligns so nicely, Trey. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to present the future of online education for all the folks here. And
absolutely. Thank you, Chris. And I'm just a huge fan of everything you do. As you mentioned earlier, you and I are very much kindred spirits. I love the idea behind liberation of education. It's actually funny. I only realized when I was prepping for this earlier how involved Michael Strong is as well, who I work with very closely at Prospera. It's kind of our same group of our cast of characters working toward the same goal. So I love it.
And I had a very, very short conversation with Mikhail Thorup yesterday as he was getting ready to come on. So there's lots of different connections here.
I love it.
Anyway, again, thank you so much. And if you wouldn't mind putting going into the poll and telling us what you thought of this one. And otherwise, we will see you at the next conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris.
Take care, Trey. Thanks, everyone.